Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks very much for joining us. My name is Nicholas Reid from Reid Corporate, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to this investor webinar with New South Wales-focused explorer Legacy Minerals, ASX ticker LGM. Well, it's been a big year for Legacy at every level in terms of exploration activity, joint ventures, portfolio additions, and most recently, a $3 million capital raising featuring the introduction of a new strategic investor and which has been launched in conjunction with a $1 million share purchase plan. The early part of 2025 looks to be equally busier, if not busier, for the company, and we're very pleased to have Legacy's Managing Director, Chris Byrne, join us from Sydney this afternoon to give us a run through on what the company's been up to and, more importantly, what lies ahead in the coming weeks and months. Chris, great to see you. Hope you're staying cool over there. Please give us a quick run through what Legacy's been up to and what's coming up.
Yeah, thanks for the introduction, Nicholas. And it's great to be able to present the Legacy Minerals story and an update for our shareholders. You'd see on the slide up there, as we're moving into Christmas, we're active across a lot of our projects with boots on the ground. Building off the back of a really good 2024. It has been a tougher market out there at the macro level, but focusing on the fundamentals of Legacy Minerals portfolio and our assets, we really feel we're in a fantastic position to move into 2025 with a strong pipeline of news flow and work that's underway. This presentation will be made available on the ASX and our website as well, so shareholders will be able to reference and refer to that. In terms of just introducing the company again, for those that aren't familiar, as Nicholas mentioned, we're a New South Wales-focused explorer. We're now the largest ASX-listed explorer in New South Wales by tenure and project status, and that's really been built over several years of a strong conviction in the New South Wales exploration space. We've got 9 projects. Our main focus 100% owned projects include the Thompson, Drake and Black Range projects, and I'll speak in a bit more detail about the work programs being undertaken on those projects. And we also have what makes Legacy a strong point of difference to a lot of other junior explorers out there is our ability to attract and secure funding through joint venture partners for our projects. So Ballura, Fontenoy, Glenlogan and out at Cobar with Newmont, Earth AI and S2R Resources. So, why New South Wales? There's a few strong reasons. Australia, is a big country and well known, I guess, for exploration, predominantly focused in WA. But people do often forget that New South Wales is home to Australia's largest gold mine, Acadia, and we're seeing throughout the district, continued discovery success. The value that we see in exploration in New South Wales. It's demonstrated through global mining investment. So since 2023, when we really kicked off the release of that Newmont joint venture and earn-in agreement, it's been around $300 million in greenfield exploration joint ventures and $16 billion in M&A activity. So it's a real global hotspot, in particular for those large greenfield JVs being signed by players like Newmont, Goldfields, Anglo Gold, Ashanti. And why are they there, and why should our shareholders and potential investors look at New South Wales as a jurisdiction to invest? Is that it's underexplored and it's relatively undervalued. So if you were to compare what the exploration expenditure that WA receives, it's about 4 times out of New South Wales. So what that means, particularly for us as a big landowner with a highly prospective portfolio of tenements, is that we are in a prime position to deliver these potentially big company making discoveries. So Legacy Minerals at a glance, we IPO'd at the end of 2021, so it's been about 3 years. We've got a very tight focus on keeping our shares on issue small. The reason why that's important, it really leverages our shareholders to discovery success. The top 20 own 42% of the company. Importantly, we've seen a very, very active 2024 with multiple drill campaigns across multiple projects. We've managed through 4 farm-in and earn-in joint ventures, secure $28.3 million in funding, so that's able to be spent under those joint ventures. Cash on hand, 1.6, and as Nick mentioned, We've raised 2 million in a recent placement, and we've got an SPP that's currently open at the moment, receiving strong support. So I thank the shareholders for supporting us in this latest SPP. It also is underwritten as well, so we've got that surety that we're going into 2025 with a strong balance sheet. And also important note, as Nick said, a new significant shareholder, which is the Fleet Fund. So that's the investment arm of Fleet Space. Very exciting company. I'll talk a little bit more about Fleet Space and what they're doing in the mineral sector on the Thompson project, where we've engaged them to do some work a couple of months ago. We announced that to the market, but very exciting to see Fleet. And they're really kicking some big goals in the market space, raising 150 million last week. So it's fantastic to have the endorsement of them as a shareholder in the recent placement. The board of management, we've got a breadth of experience from mining to exploration. Sort of notable mentions there: Dr. David Carlin, ex-chairman of Rex Minerals, for the last 5-6 years before coming on board with Legacy. Doug Menzies, non-exec director, working closely with Tom, but Doug also leads the exploration effort with Inflection Gold, which has a big $150 million joint venture with Anglo Gold Ashanti in New South Wales. So a great sort of team that's got the expertise, again, across that exploration discovery down through to the mine development stage. So what's our strategy to deliver shareholder value? It comes through really discovery, acquisitions, and partnerships. So discovery, that's owning our ground ourselves and making that new greenfields or brownfields discovery, which every explorer is chasing. We're also active in the acquisition and divestments, having acquired 2 projects recently, which include the Drake and Thompson projects. And we see those acquisitions as representing significant value. So we've been very active in the market looking at projects that fit our criteria in terms of the size of the system, the potential, and again, that geographical location in New South Wales. And the last is partnerships. So they give us this non-dilutive exposure to those discoveries. And we've seen, lots of case studies globally and throughout Australia where those partnerships have delivered significant returns for shareholders through the discoveries made in those joint ventures. We're targeting big multi-million ounce gold and large copper systems. So again, the size of the prize here is big, and we think that's really important because the discovery potential is really leveraged to that. Drake, it's one of the New South Wales' largest epithermal systems. We put out an announcement today on the LiDAR. Just really hits home just the sheer scale of that system. It's really quite impressive, and it's rare to see systems of that sort of nature, particularly in New South Wales, so heavily worked for such a long period of time. And what we're looking for there is a major Pacific Rim, gold copper system. So you think of your Porgera's and your other big, for example, PNG style mineral system. It's got widespread high grade hits of gold, copper, and silver. So you combine that with the large, caldera structure, and that's what gives us the confidence that there is a potentially large system yet to be fully uncovered at the Drake project. Ballura, we're actively drilling at the moment there with Newmont, and again, it's one of the largest epithermal vein fields in Australia. So Ballura, Drake, and Black Range are really a geological focus for us in terms of the low sulfidation epithermal systems. And again, we're targeting a tier 1 discovery there with our partners, Newmont. That farm-in is providing technical expertise, and they're a great sort of team to work for. Newmont have mined, epithermal low sulfidation systems throughout the world, very familiar with, how to make those discoveries as well as how to extract the resources from them. And Thompson. Thompson is a bit different to the Drake project and Ballura, in that it sits in the northeast of New South Wales. It's the largest single gold copper license in New South Wales, covering over 5,000 square k's. And what we're looking for there is a Hemi or Havieron, a Winu style intrusion-related copper or intrusion-related copper gold system. We've got a multitude of undrilled targets that we're unpacking with geophysics, being led by Fleet at the moment, with drill campaigns planned to commence imminently out there. And we're also actively drilling again across Ballura and our other project Fontenoy with partners Earth AI. So just to sort of cap out where we are, we've got boots and rigs on the ground across 4 projects in New South Wales. So in the lead up to Christmas, we're not ramping down. We're continuing, quite an aggressive pace of exploration, which will continue through to next year. So out at the Thomson, we're out there at the moment. It's pushing above 40 degrees out there, so it's pretty hot for the guys. But we've got on-ground gravity and ANT getting conducted. That'll be followed up by AI-driven drill target generation with Fleet. And we're actively drill planning for an early campaigns post the interpretation of those results. We've also got our team members processing historical drill core that was drilled a decade ago that never got sampled. And I'll run through what that sort of looks like later on in the slide deck. Ballura, the drill campaign's underway, so we're processing the core at the moment from that most recent campaign with partners Newmont. Fontenoy, again, we're drilling out there on the ground at the moment, chasing up on the PGE discovery that was made earlier this year by the Earth AI team. Drake, the LiDAR ground truthing has sort of commenced. We put that results out today. We've got airborne MT survey planning's underway, and that should commence early January next year. And we're commencing a mineral resource update at the Drake project as well. To sort of assist, in what is a broad, package of works, we've engaged a new chief technical advisor, Dr. John Greenfield. He's going to lend us his technical expertise that he's developed through his career, as being a director in the Geological Survey of New South Wales, as well as most recently the ex-principal geologist for Newmont. So fantastic addition to the team, and really knows the New South Wales projects well, having drilled on, in particular the Thomson and Ballura projects recently. So Drake, I'll run through this. It's an extensive system, as I mentioned. We're looking up here, and really we acquired this the exploration licenses. It's a legacy project, and we've taken a new vision and approach to it. I talked about that discovery upside that we see there. These large magmatic, systems. We've got multiple untested discovery opportunities across the project area. Limited shallow drilling as well. Most of the drilling has only tested very, very close to surface. So there's certainly a lot of opportunity for some deeper drilling, but also a lot of opportunity to drill test a lot of these targets that have never been drilled before or even really known about. And that's come through that LiDAR, which has identified these, literally thousands of historical workings. So that sort of demonstrates the sheer scale of the mineralization throughout this 150 kilometre squared caldera. That potential, again, is demonstrated through, these 100 gram meter gold equivalent hits. So I'll go through the breakdown of what the gold, that gold equivalent looks like. But, that 100 gram meter is a figure of thumb, used to sort of assess, the mineral endowment and the potential of a system to host a world-class body. There's an existing JORC resource that we're updating, and the release on the 13th of November breaks that down, but it's close to 688,000 ounces gold equivalent in 2004 and 2012. And again, part of our strategy up there is to update that resource to 2012 and be able to report those again on the ASX. What we really like about Drake is this de-risked future upside that we see through exploring in a brownfields environment. So we've got a lot of the critical infrastructure on our existing granted exploration license that really de-risks that future discovery in terms of what a development opportunity looks like on the project. So that includes tailings dam, freshwater dam, grid easements, site shed housing. We've got long life exploration licenses. Importantly, there's no royalties across the project area either. And we do estimate there's around 30 to 50 million in infrastructure and previous exploration expenditure. So it represents a pretty phenomenal sunk value cost for us, for the company, our shareholders, with that $190,000 acquisition. There is a future opportunity in the Mount Carrington assessment lease application that we've lodged, the ALA there. So that covers the 3 or 4 open pits that make up the Mount Carrington resource, which represents around 400,000 ounces gold equivalent, roughly 50, split roughly 50% silver, 50% gold. So that's being assessed currently with the department, and we're hoping to incorporate that into our broader exploration and strategy across the larger Drake project. This image, the schematic, just sort of shows some of the features of Drake, again with those drill hits there in a bit of a 3D space with the geology map over the top there. You can see the black circular features there, the interpreted outer rims of the caldera structure. And you can sort of see the reds are the historical workings. There's been a lot of work focused around the ALA areas, white rock, red rock, but you get these huge zones where there's been no drilling. So going through prospective geology, and what we're really excited to do on this project, and we really feel like we're the first company in a long time that's going to be taking an exploration-focused approach here, looking at the bigger picture. And as part of the program of works that I mentioned, commencing early next year in January, is a large airborne magnetotelluric survey deployed very successfully by companies in PNG like K92 and Tolu Metals, exploring for these large systems. So we're going to be quite excited to really deploy what is the first large-scale geophysical survey done on this project, really since CRA, were operating, or they were there back in, a couple decades ago. So it's going to be a fantastic opportunity for our shareholders to deploy, these modern geophysical techniques to a terrain that hasn't had a lot of that geophysical work done. So talking about LiDAR again, it's a fantastic bit of technology. We're talking about satellites, laser infrared and ranging and detection. But we're looking at resolutions here that can be up to 5 centimeters. What that does for us, and what we've been able to do, is scan that project, identify close to 400 shafts, 250 mine adits, 2,700 trenches and prospecting pits, totaling around 3,300 historical mining features. That's that sheer scale of workings that I talk about that demonstrate why this is one of the larger mineral systems in New South Wales. A lot of that production occurred at the turn of the century, and it demonstrates the large footprint here that, again, is shallow at surface. That scale and the density of working, highlights just that the size of that mineral system. What it also does is it does help us identify outcrop mineral trends, shafts and adits that haven't been identified previously as well, which will help define further targets, post our sort of ground truthing on the project as well. A lot of these, there was a significant number of workings up in the lunatic field to the right of the project. I'll sort of just highlight that. Extensively worked. It was one of the first antimony producing regions in Australia, so from about the 1870s. And that's a little bit of a different style of mineralization to what we're looking for in the Drake caldera structure, in that the lunatic field is a Hillgrove style mineralization. So we're talking about being in the same geological region as Hillgrove up there. So extensive sort of high grade antimony results have been recorded previously from that project area. So in terms of some of the advanced exploration prospects that have formed part of our approach for early next year, Red Rock. So some of those large gram meter intercepts there include 143 meters at 1.1 grams gold from surface, 121 meters at 0.7 grams gold from 1 meter. White Rock North, again, another epithermal project there. A lot more silver dominant in this part of the system, 37 meters at 422 grams silver, but also 0.2 grams gold. Importantly, throughout all those hits, you'll note the pretty prevalent occurrence of lead and zinc. And we really see a polymetallic vision on this project that looks at the holistic mineralization and in-ground value that resides in the lead, zinc and copper in these systems as sort of a key step forward for the project in terms of looking holistically at what not just gold and silver, which has been, I guess, the focus since the early 1990s when production last ceased at the gold and silver mines there, to looking again at that untested sort of copper potential across the project area. And that includes Emu Creek, largest producing copper mine in the district, It's had no modern exploration since 1970. So pretty sort of clear when you're talking about, a lode at surface that was mined 10 meters wide, that has had no on-ground exploration, since 1970. Lunatic Field, I talked about that, a Hillgrove style antimony. We're talking rock chip samples there that are going, up to 29% antimony, but also very high grade gold numbers as well. So 63 grams gold, 56 gram gold. So very rich, part of the project area, and we're certainly exploring opportunities on this part of the system. Again, maintaining our focus on the gold, copper, and silver component of our portfolio. So on to Thomson. So Thomson and Drake are the two projects that we're actively, most focused on at the moment, beyond our joint venture partners. And what we really see up at the Thomson is a rare opportunity to own a belt scale exploration project in an area or a jurisdiction like New South Wales. What we're looking for up there is intrusion-related copper and gold potential. We believe the proof of concept is confirmed in the historical drilling, and it's a target-rich environment. So the features that you see in that image there and the inserts are magnetic, and these sort of magnetic bullseye anomalies are what makes this project really sort of attractive. It's slightly undercover, but we've got the potential for these large deposits. We'll have relatively the first mover advantage, as there's only been one other exploration company that's done any drilling there, and that was a decade ago. And that discovery, from testing one of these targets, does open up, the overall district to us. We really like the Thomson origin as a region, because Geoscience Australia consider it to be the most underexplored origin in Australia. So when you think about geological terrains and you think about the big end member deposits that are found in a geological terrain, and that big end member deposit like Cadia, like Broken Hill, like Olympic Dam, that big deposit has yet to be found in the Thomson origin. So we're quite enthused by what we see in the geophysical work that we're doing at the moment. The cover is geophysically transparent. So again, we get good confidence in what we're looking at there. And it's relatively shallow cover. So we're not talking about, large, undercover, expensive diamond drill holes. The cover ranges anywhere from 40 meters to it's about 280. So we're talking about targets that are sometimes 40 meters from surface. So again, achievable for a company and our market cap and cash balance to be able to start to test some of these targets. So what's the analogues here? We think there's really three good analogues, and all three of those have been discovered since Thomson was last tested and the company walked away a decade ago in 2011. And that's Hemi, Havieron, and Winu. So intrusion-related deposits, Greatland Gold's Havieron is a great analogy, because we see a lot of similar geophysical and geochemical characteristics in the work that was done previously by Thomson Resources. The discovery that came, or the breakthrough for those guys out there, was drill testing, the coincident mag and residual gravity anomaly. So we look at the Thomson project, we're looking at, again, a focus historically on testing the magnetic features as part of the system, and these untested coincident gravity anomalies that remain to be drilled. We're looking at these bullseye subcircular mag features. It's pyrrhotite-related mineralization, again, and these related gravity high anomalies. So it's a pretty, simple recipe we sort of see for success out there. And I'll sort of just talk probably about two targets in particular. F4 is the first one. You can see that there. It's a pretty compelling target. It's never been drilled. The features that you sort of see there, these pipe-like, magnetic bodies that punch close to surface, come within 160 meters from surface. So again, a clear opportunity for a drill test there. Zones of, potential magnetic destruction or magnetic remnants. And again, a sort of an unusual type body, with a strong, magnetic anomaly. So that's the mag inversion model there that makes the F4 quite a convincing target. That's getting covered as part of the ANT and detailed gravity that we're doing at the moment out at the Thomson project. The other one, Cut B, this one was drilled, and the drill core data to date, gives us an extreme level of, encouragement in terms of what we're seeing there. It might be a little hard to see, but there's 3 drill holes that have tested the magnetic anomaly, and then slightly offset to that magnetic anomaly is the gravity feature. So again, that gravity feature, which has often led through to the discovery of these types of intrusion-related systems, that's our core focus in terms of what we're planning to test. But we've also given a lot of encouragement by that previous drilling because, we're seeing huge zones of alteration. We're also seeing mineralization. So often in the drilling at the Thompson, we're getting significant amounts of mineralization that gives us encouragement that there is a large mineralized intrusive nearby. So there's a fertility factor there that makes it extremely important. Some of those grades you can look in the previous releases, but we're talking 4% zinc, 0.5% tungsten, 0.5% bismuth, as well as gold up to a couple grams, over 100 grams silver. So it's sort of indicative of what we would have classified as drill testing the distal or proximal parts of an intrusion, but not actually testing the intrusion itself. One of the first things that we got stuck into, in our review of the project before its acquisition is just reviewing, again, a lot of the historic work. And we came across a pretty significant amount of unsampled drill core remaining from the 2011 survey. So we're undertaking a reassay and processing of around about 1 kilometre of that drill core. That'll include multi-element analysis. And what you can sort of see there in that core, we're looking at pyrite, pyrrhotite, chalcopyrite, arsenopyrite. So veins that we'd be, fairly, you'd get a lot of encouragement that you're potentially grading. And I think that by increasing the sample density of the drill core data, it's going to paint for us a better holistic picture in terms of what the drilling was testing, what the zones of mineralization were, and help us vector towards a discovery in our drilling on the project. And then lastly, just sort of touching on Fleet. Fleet Space, interesting company in terms of their divergence across several sectors, including remote mineral exploration. And what we're deploying out there is a large 3D subsurface survey, which is looking ambient noise tomography that's being coupled with gravity stations that are being infilled as well. So we're going to get a fantastic data set. That's what the nodes look like. That node in the image on the top right that's being planted in the ground, that links up to Fleet Space's satellites, and we collect real-time data from those nodes. That means faster turnaround time for the project in terms of getting those results back, and they'll feed into our planned drill campaigns for early next year. ANT, it's a relatively new system. It's being deployed by a lot of the major gold miners, Barrick out at Reko Diq, Anglo Gold extensively throughout New South Wales, Goldfields as well. So we really sort of see it as just another bit in the toolkit that we can put in our portfolio towards help us to target these undercover features. It's delivered some good results for Anglo Gold so far. They talk about in their some of their latest drilling done by Inflection, that it's delivered some of the best results from an alteration perspective as well. So we're really expecting it to deliver some pretty good looking images and targets from the intrusives that we see out of the Thompson. So just touching briefly on Black Range. Black Range, we drilled that earlier this year. The results, were encouraging in terms of, identifying, an epithermal system, low sulfidation epithermal system, obviously not the grades that we're looking for. So it is somewhat on the back burner. We'll still be doing, regional rock chipping sampling. Again, the Bullura, Black Range, like Bullura, is an extremely underexplored region. And we're going to be slowly building the data set up there. We're still very encouraged by the prospectivity of Black Range, in its relationship to the mineralization we see at Bullura, which is located nearby. And again, this is a project that hasn't had any significant on-ground exploration for a long time, particularly in the southern regions of this project. But, we know at grades, we see some extensive high grades at surface, some rock chipping we did several months ago, pulling up, over 1,000 grams per tonne silver. We're talking about a very, very large system here. when you look at the distances between prospects, particularly Sugarbag Hill and Mount Mylora. So lastly, I'll just touch a slide each on the joint ventures. But really what that 25 million, gives us is that sustained exploration effort across the portfolio. There's a lot of upside in joint ventures, and they're a real good example of non-dilutive, value creation. This is a slide that I've had in the deck for some time. Just really emphasises, being a minor partner in a project that makes a major discovery means some significant returns for shareholders. And Greatlands Gold, their JV with Newcrest, well now Newmont, but that's diverged. That was more than a 10-bag market cap increase just by owning what effectively was a 25% share of that project. So that's the sort of value uplift that we can get through a discovery that gets made on any one of our joint ventures. And that's why we see it as fundamentally important for our portfolio to have these, because it gives our shareholders that discovery exposure while also sharing a lot of the risk as well with the earning partner. So Ballura with Newmont, the current drilling campaign's underway now. We're processing the core from the 4 drill holes that were done up there to the north of the project area. Newmont are going to be spending, they could spend up to 15 million over 8 years. There's minimum drill meters. So importantly, we see that, we structure our joint ventures to really deliver, I guess, that breakthrough discovery that incentivizes the partner to continue the earn-in. At the completion of that 15 mil, under this joint venture, and it's the same applies to our 2 other joint ventures, Legacy is the option to be 20% loan carried through to commercial production. So that's the earning partner financing the remaining drilling, scoping studies, feasibility studies, as well as capex required for development. Legacy is not required to repay anything of our 20% ownership until it's in commercial production. So we essentially have a loan carried through to commercial production at no risk for our shareholders, owning a substantial ownership part of a potential operation. So it's not a joint venture that dilutes us down to a 2% ownership or an NSR. We're talking about a substantial, piece at the end of it. Ballura, we continue to be, just amazed by the system, sitting in central New South Wales, and it's how big it is, the size of that epithermal vein field. We are at that relatively early stage in the project where we're going out and testing a lot of these targets, and next year we'll start to work in the target ranking and then start to look at some of the follow-up targets from the drilling that we've recently completed, but as well from some of the earlier drilling done this year and last year on the project. So Earth AI, another alliance agreement that sees us carried through to 20% commercial production. Very different, exposure to the portfolio in that this is a PGE project, 120 meters at 0.3. So Earth AI have been drilling these very wide space drill holes into an area not previously recognised to host a magmatic nickel copper sulfide system, with a very, very large soil footprint. So we're very encouraged, by the work that they're doing, and that discovery that they, delivered earlier this year, again, for a style of mineralisation not known to exist, in this region of the Lachlan Fold Belt. We're talking about broad PG intercepts. And again, we're going to see a sustained exploration effort from Earth AI for this project in the next year. So Glen Logan with S2 Resources, again, very encouraged by, there's a hole completed here by Dr. Mark Bennett and his team middle of the year. While it didn't explain, that the source of that main magnetic intrusion wasn't what we interpreted it to be, we're very encouraged by the results towards the end of the hole, that this pervasive pyrite, late magmatic chalcopyrite, elevated copper, certainly gives a lot of encouragement to, the fact that this is an unrecognised, Ordovician intrusive complex that sits 50k south of Katy Ridgeway that's never been drilled before. So it's the start of a pretty exciting journey there, and we're keen to sort of follow the progress on what S2R are doing in their next steps. Again, it's a project that we've got 20% loan carried through to commercial production. And then lastly, out at Cobar's, seen an increasing amount of M&A activity over the recent years. and we're really encouraged by a lot of the work that's been getting done by the guys at the CSA, Copper Mine, Metals Acquisition Corp, Aurelia, and Polymetals. We've joined ventured this out to to Helix, who are sort of prolific cobar basin explorers. Again, there's minimum drill commitments that they need to meet to get their earnings on this project. So lastly, just to sort of cover timeframes and discovery catalysts, we've got the drilling in December with Fontenoy and Ballura, and we expect those results to come through early next year, as well as the commencement of drilling at the Thompson project. We're expecting the historical drill core analysis as well to come through early next year, and then we're planning to look at drill testing, Drake, and further results from the Thompson project in the end of Q1, Q2. They'll coincide a lot, again, the Drake sort of drilling in particular, with the results that we're getting from the airborne magnetotellurics. We're planning to kick that off in early January, and again receive the results from the Thompson A&T gravity survey that we've got currently underway as well. Feb, we should be looking at getting the MT results. We'll have an update on the ALA, hopefully at that stage as well, and potential MRE update across the broader Drake project area. So that's the broad summary. We've got a focus on delivering shareholder value through discovery, divestment, acquisition, and development. And we really believe that, we're setting the company up for, a good 2025 in that, we've got the right structure there from a board, a management perspective, as well as a tight market capitalization, the right people, the right ground, and importantly, we're actively drilling. We'll move into 2025 with our recent 3 mil capital placement and SPP, with the funds to continue drilling on our 100% owned projects as well. So once again, I'd like to thank everyone for attending today. Thank our existing shareholders for their strong support in the SPP. As I said, that is open up until Friday. If people want to participate, they need to start to look at getting their applications in pretty quickly. And we'll be, I said, active all the way up until Christmas and active in early New Year. So keep an eye out for any upcoming ASX releases and announcements. But I'll hand it back to Nicholas. Thanks, Nick.
Thanks, Chris. That was a very informative run through. We've got a lot of people joining us online. So just a reminder to everyone who's tuned in, please go fire your questions in. There's a Q&A tab on the right-hand side of the webinar browser. So please use the opportunity while we've got Chris online here to send in your questions, and I'll make sure that we put everything to him. Chris, just a quick one. When does the SPP close? Just if you could remind me.
Yeah, the 20th of December.
Excellent. Okay. I just wanted to start with one about Fleet Space. They've been in the news a bit recently. Ray did a big fundraising recently. Tell us a bit more about that relationship, how it works, and what you hope to get out of it.
Yeah, no, it's a good question. Because as I said, it's a bit of an unusual. They're considered a space technology company. And one might wonder how they ended up in mineral exploration. But we sort of first came across the work that Fleet were doing, particularly in New South Wales, through Inflection, Kincora Copper as well as another company, in really implementing, a relatively new set of, essentially passive seismic in their ambient noise tomography. We engaged them to conduct some work out at Thompson, and we were looking to expand that. Coincided well with the placement, and they invested as a strategic investor in the company. They're very well funded. They raised $150 million last week in a Series D raise, which is putting them at a market cap of close to 800 million. So yeah, they're a fascinating company that spans a whole range of sectors. But they were Australia's fastest growing company last year, and we're really we're excited to sort of see not only the deployment of the A&T and the gravity, which will give us, a great data set out there, very, very rich, comprehensive data set. But then at the back end, we also get access to their AI systems in terms of bringing that together, and that'll help present some drill targets for us, and inform, I guess, our exploration teams' drill testing approach. So yeah, we're really looking forward to that. The partnership sort of playing out and delivering hopefully a pretty big discovery. It's not one thing I think someone in the AI space talked to me about it before, that, you know, you can invest in a company that has the AI technology, but, you know, if you want to get exposure to what, you know, the outcomes of the products that the AI can deliver, like a big tier one mineral discovery, like that involves, you know, getting exposed to a company like Legacy on the, you know, that's doing that exploration. So Fleet are now exposed to that potential discovery success by, you know, owning, you know, a pretty significant, I think 2% maybe of the company.
Thanks, Chris. And speaking of AI and cutting edge technologies, you've got another relationship, obviously, with Earth AI, and that has delivered some interesting results this year too. What's your view of that magmatic discovery, and what's the next steps with it?
Yeah, it's another good question. Like we're really encouraged. Like, it's something that sort of came out of the blue. Like we picked up Fontenoy for its porphyry copper, you know, potential. There's some significant copper intercepts, some significant gold intercepts. So it was always a bit of a, you know, again, I guess that's a different perspective that AI can give, and I think that's why it's important for companies to get exposure to it. You know, we do have that traditional boots on ground exploration approach where we're rock chipping, geochem, but, you know, AI again just presents another, you know, sort of tool in the toolkit. I think that the market probably doesn't appreciate really what's, you know, happening out there yet. It's still early. There's no known, you know, projects nearby that you can compare it to either. So it's sort of, it's a standalone thing at the moment. But what the real takeaway for me is just the scale of the system. Like, we're talking about a huge soil footprint, like, you know, I think Julimar sized, very, very high conviction soil, like in terms of the numbers. And everywhere where you drill, you're getting, you know, these big, broad, you know, PG intercepts. You know, the next steps for Roman and that team will be to narrow down to the high grade zones, which we do know exist in the project. We do see some high grade zones, and build up a high grade core of that project. But certainly the scale and the consistency of that project gives us a lot of confidence that could, you know, within the nearer future, present itself as one of Australia's bigger palladium. You know, it's a palladium rich system. As Australia's one of the bigger, you know, palladium, you know, deposits, hopefully.
Yeah, interesting. Thanks, Chris. Drake, obviously a key early focus for next year, and you've just today announced some very interesting results from LiDAR that you've flown there, and I think you've also got some geophysics pending. Tell us a bit more about that, and what do you hope to get in terms of refining your sort of approach to that project?
Yeah. So what we sort of have seen like occur on Drake, you know, since mining stopped in the 1990s, and this is very much informs our exploration approach, is that there has been a historic focus on recommencing production up there at the Mount Carrington mines. And we do consider that we're probably the first company to take that project on as, you know, an exploration play. So we're looking at the big picture. We're deploying large regional geophysics. Our focus has been on digitizing a lot of the historical data that has been outside the existing focus of a lot of the previous companies. And what we're really expecting, you know, we're already seeing the fruits of doing that work in terms of uncovering some tremendous high-grade zones. But it'll build the picture, I guess, of where to go next. And I think that's important at Drake. You know, like Thompson, you know, Drake has had a lot of companies, you know, hold it or go through it. And, you know, certainly we need to give ourselves every advantage you know, that we can. So that includes, you know, airborne MT, that's never been done across the project. The LiDAR interpretation, that's never been done. Large systematic soil and geochemistry and rock chipping, you know, testing regional targets. So all that sort of information will sort of really feed into pulling out drill targets beyond what we currently know as well, and hopefully result in, you know, it being a fundamentally different outcome for us than it has been for the previous companies that have held the project.
Yeah, interesting brownfields project with a completely new lens being applied to it. So it could be a fascinating asset to watch for you guys next year. The Hillgrove style antimony opportunity, there's obviously quite a bit of noise around that in New South Wales at the moment. Can you just give us a little bit more colour on that?
Yeah, we sort of, again, it sits in a funny, like that, it's called the lunatic field up there. And So it's not exactly related to the mineralization that we see at Drake, which is your more classic low to intermediate sulfidation, epithermal sulfidation system. But yeah, very high grades. It was worked extensively. So we're talking about, potentially, production before Hillgrove, sort of started. So some of the earliest antimony production in Australia, the actual parish, the district up there is called antimony. Like that's how early stage the production was. And they liberated some pretty phenomenal grades up there from some of the historical workings. So we've got really good land access over those properties. And again, the LiDAR there has identified just a huge number of pits and workings. So we're doing some, I guess, basic low-cost activities, which will include ground truthing, geochem. We're more likely, to assess opportunities on that project to get a partner in, as with our sort of modus operandi. And, that, again, just allows us to focus on our gold, copper, silver at Drake while still liberating value out of antimony. You talk about the market factors. We sort of see that thematic being quite strong in terms of the demand for antimony in the future. And again, we're talking about this is Australia's, home to Australia's large, the New England Fold Belt. It's Australia's premier antimony district, home to very large deposits. And, we certainly see a lot of upside there for our shareholders.
Thanks, Chris. Interesting. We've got an online question here from an investor. He raises a point which I think is a valid one. He says that, do you have any concerns down the track, given the problems that Regis Resources experienced earlier this year? Was obviously one of the biggest stories of the year. Perhaps if you could give us your thoughts on the permitting regime in central New South Wales.
Yeah, it's a really good question. The first part is that the New South Wales government approved it, and it was the federal government that rejected it. So, firstly, it's an issue at the federal level, and it's certainly not an indication of New South Wales' willingness to put projects into production. The second is that, and there's two ways to look at it. There's one, you obviously some places are better to explore than others. Like that's a pretty common sense sort of thing to say. But, a discovery made at Drake, for example, that has a pre-existing tailings dam built and a freshwater dam and a grid easement, that's not going to suffer the same problems that Regis has, because Regis were trying to get that tailings dam built. So it's got all the, a lot of the critical infrastructure that often, lengthens these approval processes. So there's certainly that brownfields environment that add a huge benefit, and it's something that we probably didn't really appreciate. I guess the significance of I guess the infrastructure up there and what that means in terms of, us growing a resource and potentially, the future development pathways on that project. The second is, New South Wales in general, and the regions that we explore are pretty far away from, I guess, that central part. We've got great land access, and it's certainly, when you look at the style of mineralization and the size as well plays a lot into that. We've seen even since that Regis decision, Goldfields still signed an $80 million JV in New South Wales, a couple of months after. So I don't think the majors aren't concerned by it. We're sort of not really concerned by it either, because we still have that greenfields discovery opportunity. And again, we take a view in where we base our projects and what we acquire, that we're looking for areas that not only gives us the opportunity to make a successful discovery, but there's also that opportunity to develop the project down the track as well.
Yeah, it's certainly not deterring explorers, because there's plenty of activity in New South Wales, isn't there? One of the more active parts of the country, I suspect. Chris, I think we've covered all the questions reasonably comprehensively. Do you want to just maybe wrap things up with us? Just perhaps give us your thoughts on, I guess, why legacy for next year, and maybe just leave us with some thoughts about what we're going to see out of the company in the first few weeks of the year.
Yeah, no, sure. So I'll probably just sort of, to sum it up, and again, it sort of points out that the value proposition in the company is that, if you look at the market cap and where we are, and you look at some of the peers, look at the drilling that's been delivered to date on our projects, Look at the joint venture parties that we've got on board. As I said, Newmont in particular, they don't invest very often, and they only invest when they feel that they can make a big, potentially tier one discovery. The sort of the tier one that's sort of thrown around by those majors is your 500,000 ounce per annum. So when you sort of look at all those factors, we've got a great package of news flow that's coming up. Again, there's probably a bit of overhang in the market around what we're going to do capital wise. That's all gone now. I think that 2025 is going to be a really good year for us as well. And should we see a settling out in the macro markets, like we definitely feel that the fundamentals are really poised for Legacy to get a good, a good return to where we were, in the middle of the year share price wise. So, we're going to be active and we're going to be working hard, for our shareholders to get that, to get those returns.
Fantastic. Well, look, thanks very much, Chris. Congratulations on what's been a very, very busy and successful year for Legacy, and it sounds like there's a lot more to come. So we appreciate you coming on this afternoon and giving us that run through. And just a reminder to everyone listening that the replay of this will be available in the next few hours and released on YouTube and the company social. So thanks for joining us. Thanks for tuning in. As the year draws to a close, and we really look forward to getting Chris on again in early 2025. Thanks very much, Chris. Have a great day.
Thank you all.